We're building an Etsy shop from scratch and going to scale it to $10,000 as fast as possible by only selling digital AI wall art. I'm Alec, a programmer and Etsy seller who has not only sold thousands of art designs and done almost $3,000 in art sales in a single month, but also a guy who built an automation system to run his business on autopilot. This is part 2 in the 0 to 10K Etsy challenge, and we have a lot to cover since part 1. We'll do a short review of everything that's happened up to this point. Then I'll give the full story of everything that's happened since, including walking through the steps so that you can see everything I did and follow along if you choose to. There are some highs and lows to the story, so make sure you stay until the end to see a glimpse of where the shop is headed from here. So let's get into it. First, let's rewind the clock. I started this new shop in September of 2024. So I created a new Google account for my business and used that to create an Etsy account. Then I went up to my profile and hit sell on Etsy, then walked through the setup steps, came up with my shop's name, and uploaded my temporary listing to finish getting my brand new shop set up. At that point, it was time to build my products. We're simply selling AI art files as printable wall art. So digital designs that customers purchase, then print out themselves and frame. So I went to the very best AI image tool that exists in the world today, Midjourney. I signed up for the basic account and got Midjourney set up and ready to generate my breathtaking designs. Then, finally, I began writing prompts. Although I actually wrote prompts to generate more prompts. What I mean is I used Atlas Muse, a custom GPT trained on everything Midjourney, to generate my art prompts for me. I just asked it for some beautiful fall oil painting prompts in a 4:5 aspect ratio, and let Atlas build me the ingredients for breathtaking art designs. And Atlas Muse has a special perk where he will generate famous artists in each prompt. So every design comes out with an extra splash of character. After I had my prompts laid out in front of me, I copied and pasted them into Midjourney and began generating my products one after the other. I moved through the generations, upscaling the winners, varying some that were close, and going back to the GPT for more prompts to keep this machine moving. I spent a few hours that day creating designs, and a few hours the next day, and by the start of day 4, I had 100 winning art designs that I loved. Now, it was time to turn these designs into Etsy listings. So I used 2 other custom GPTs, Orion, the title architect, and Nova, the tag strategist, to come up with my 100 titles and 1,300 tags, since that's 13 tags per listing. That might seem like a lot, but I just used this pre-made prompt on the resources page in my school community and pasted it into Orion, along with a screenshot of all my art designs so the AI could get a feel for what to name it. After that, I simply pasted that output into Nova to generate my tags, and he built each set perfectly, one after the other. After I was happy with the titles and tags, I then found a handful of great-looking mockups on Etsy and downloaded them. And then I used Tempest, a Photoshop automation script, to run all 100 designs through all 10 of my mockups automatically in the background. Plus, the script also generates the 5 custom cropped sizes of the art that we actually sell with the listing. And finally, I used the bulk upload software called Downpour to just drag and drop all of those 1,500 files at once. And it built my listings automatically and uploaded them to Etsy as drafts. Then I did a select all and published all 100 listings. After starting with just a bunch of Midjourney designs that morning, I now had 100 amazing new listings in my shop, ready to sell. Feeling good about my new shop, I logged off for the day, but no one was more surprised than me when later that same night, I got a notification on my phone for one order for $2.10. My new shop's very first sale. All right, that was just a review of what happened in part 1. Now let's talk about what happened next. First, I went back into product building. In fact, with that rush of positive reinforcement from the first sale so early, I was more motivated than ever. So I spent a while generating more and more designs with Midjourney until I didn't just have another 100 designs, but I had a total of 174 brand new designs that I knew would be winners. But 174 designs means 174 titles, 2,262 tags, and 10 mockups and 5 cropped files for each. This was going to be the largest test of my tools that I had ever done up to this point. I had never ran that many designs through the Tempest script or uploaded over 2,000 files to Etsy in one go with Downpour. But I knew I had to try. So I got to work. I kicked off the Tempest script to run my art through each of my mockups, plus crop and upscale the designs into 5 sizes each, all automatically in the background. While that was running, I was screenshotting my big list of art designs and sending the screenshots to Orion, the title GPT, where he would process the art and generate me perfect SEO optimized titles for each and every one, with a unique number at the end so I could keep track of it in the future. Then I pasted the big list of titles into Nova the Tag GPT in several batches, and let it give me thousands of tags one after the other. Then I stored all this info in this custom Google Sheets spreadsheet, with code to double check my title length, plus my tags length and format. This is the actual spreadsheet that I've used for months in all of my shops, and it's also available right now in the description. I would highly recommend it. Finally, as I finished collecting the last of the titles and tags, the Tempest script notified me that its processing was completed. So it was time to move to Downpour. I set up the names and the order of my images I wanted for my listings, plus the different cropped file names, and the descriptions and details for each. Then I uploaded that Google Sheet spreadsheet at the top, went to my giant list of folders that Tempest created with all the files inside of each, then went back a folder and dragged and dropped that massive parent folder into Downpour. After a few seconds, Downpour processed all the files, linked them with the right title and tags, and built each and every listing. And I could scroll through my 174 listings to make sure they all look good, then check auto upload at the top. And at that point, I got up from my computer and went on with the rest of my night. A while later, I went into Etsy, checked out my draft listings in my shop, and sitting there exactly as expected were 174 brand new listings ready for me to publish and list for sale. Now, I can't tell you how long that would have taken me to publish all these listings without these automation tools. As a programmer, I built an early version of this just a couple months after I started my first ever Etsy shop, and I've been using it ever since. I've improved the tools and kept building on them for months, and I'm proud to say that for the first time ever, this entire system is open and available for use inside of my community. You can start completely for free and just comment on the pinned post and I'll unlock the automation tools for you in the Classroom tab. But obviously, it's totally fine if it's not your style. But now, let's go through what happened next. After my mass upload, I let the 274 listings in my shop sit for a while, and it was slow. I was hyped up, all excited and working hard building my shop, but the market felt like a ghost town. Days after days went by, and a few favorites trickled in, but it was mostly silent. But then, after long last, almost 2 weeks after opening my shop, when I got my first sale, I finally got the Etsy notification for my second sale, which surprisingly was actually one of the oldest prints in my shop. As a side note here, it can take 4 to 6 weeks for new Etsy listings to start getting traction and snowballing. So I knew that all the work I was doing today wouldn't bear fruit for a few more weeks. At this point in the story, I was almost 2 weeks into my shop, and obviously listings from when I started were only now starting to get traction. But regardless, after seeing this, I got extremely excited once again, and I jumped right back into working on the shop. Although this time, I didn't jump into building more Midjourney designs. This time, I thought it was about time I completed my shop setup. So during this period, I added 4 things to my Etsy shop: a shop banner, a shop announcement, my about section, and my FAQs. The banner might be the most important. It's that big sprawling shop image at the very top of the page that everyone who visits the business sees. So I wanted it to be great. For banners like these, we could use Photoshop, but I decided to change it up and use another graphics design tool that I love called Canva. I created a new Canva design in a custom size of 4800 pixels by 1200 pixels, through my shop's logo here on the right. Then I searched through all of my 274 listings for the best of the best. I chose some of my favorites and a few that were getting favorited from shoppers on Etsy, and I picked one mockup for each and threw them in a line here on the left like this, with each mockup cropped to be a perfect square. But after I put it all together, it felt like it was missing something. I thought about it long and hard, and I decided that I wanted to give my latest batch of designs a name. I noticed that all my designs in the banner were plants or flowers, so I decided to call it the Seeds of Growth Collection, and add some text below my logo. My banner was finally complete. So I went over to Etsy and uploaded it to my shop to be displayed in all of its glory. Having this banner was a huge improvement in the appeal of my shop page. But I also want to connect with my shoppers and customers. So that is where the next section, the shop announcement, comes in. I kept this simple and just wrote out a short welcome message like you see here. I welcome shoppers to my store, mentioned the shop-wide 50% off sale that I'm running, and also plugged my buy in bulk offers. Simple as that. And of course, if we're going to welcome shoppers to our store with messages about a sale, we need to make sure we have a sale running. So we can go to our shop dashboard and click the marketing tab, then sales and discounts. To get our shop-wide 50% off sale, we can just click run a sale, select 50% off in this box, then set the duration starting from today and going out a couple days, and give it a name like winter sale. I like to keep my sales short so that shoppers see that sales clock ticking down on my listings, creating urgency for buyers to act now. We can even schedule multiple 2-day sales back to back, so we always have a discount active. And for that other buy in bulk sale, we can set that up by clicking encourage bigger orders, then selecting custom and typing in 60% and setting the number of items to 2. Plain and simple. Etsy sets these as 1 month long, which is perfect. Okay, good for us for making sure our shop announcement is talking about sales that are actually going on. In reality, I've been running these sales from day one when I first opened the shop, but I wanted to walk through everything to get those sales set up here for anyone who's following along. Next, I wanted to give my shop more of a personality and backstory. So I decided to set up this section at the bottom of the shop page called the Shop About section. Again, super simple to build. We just need to create a small write-up for our shop and what we're about. Take a look at this as an example. We'll start with a nice headline, then our own little shop bio that speaks to what we sell and the quality of our prints. Then a call to action to encourage shoppers to follow our shop, as well as a final line that acts as a soft call to action for the reader to transform their walls with our awesome art. Simple as that. And as a bonus tip, use ChatGPT for help here. It will make things even easier if you get writer's block. The final shop detail I set up was my FAQs section, to make sure shoppers had answers to any of their questions that popped up as they saw my products. This section is a bit longer, and some of the biggest shops in the space like Lexington Prints, Antique White Art, and North Prints have nailed the FAQ setup. So for my shop, I can just use their FAQs for reference, pick apart the pieces I like, and add a bit of my own flair, and build my own unique list of FAQs. ChatGPT can be a huge help here as well, as we don't want to just copy anyone else's sections word for word. And with that, my shop was completely transformed. Having all these pieces in place made me feel great about my business. It turned what probably looked like a sketchy web page into an online small business with a soul. And it paid off. Because shortly after I added all that personality to my Etsy shop, I was presented with my third sale. And it was one of my new designs. Again, this felt absolutely great. I could tell that this shop had the foundations to be a massive success. But little did I know, I was about to hit the longest stretch of nothingness that this shop had ever seen since its first sale. A couple of days went by, and I didn't think anything of it. But then 4 more days, and I started to feel uneasy. I took a look at my shop on the 7th day since my last sale, and clicked through a few of my 274 listings. I was confident in my prints, my mockups, and my titles and tags, but I thought the constraint of my business was simply volume. The number of listings in my shop was just too small. So, a few weeks after my last upload session, I went back to work once again. I cranked out hundreds of Midjourney prompts in a few days, using the custom prompt writing GPTs at every chance I had. I also discovered a pro tip to create Midjourney generations in bulk. If you get a big list of prompt output from Atlas Muse or just regular ChatGPT, you can actually send it to another ChatGPT window and tell it to use this prompt. Essentially, it tells ChatGPT to wrap the list of prompts in brackets and put a slash before any commas that appear except for the ones that separate the prompts. You might think this sounds crazy, but check this out. If I copy this big string of output and paste it into Midjourney, do you see what happens? It just generated every single one of these prompts in parallel at the same time. So that's just a pro tip I wanted to share to hopefully save one of you watching this some headache. So you don't have to keep copying and pasting prompts from ChatGPT into Midjourney one by one like I did for so long. So using this technique, I kept cranking out designs. It felt like a total blur. But 2 days after generating tons of design ideas with Midjourney, I had 262 new art prints that I generated. I spent just a couple hours a day over those 2 days creating these designs, but now I had effectively doubled the size of my Etsy shop and doubled the chances at success. But of course, I had to now get these designs transformed into listings on Etsy. So it was about to be time for another record-breaking stress test of my automation tools. I had to create 262 titles, over 3,000 tags, and with 10 mockups and 5 files per listing, almost 4,000 files. Honestly, I think a past version of me might have quit at that point. But I knew the power of sticking with it. I wasn't going to give up on this shop or this challenge. It just wasn't going to happen. I had to do what must be done, and with these automation tools, I had no excuse. They made it even easier than ever before, even with 262 listings. So I started screenshotting my art designs 20 or 30 at a time, pasting them into Orion, asking for titles, pasting those titles into Nova, and filling out my Google spreadsheet. And of course, kicking off Tempest to start cranking out my huge list of files in the background while I did all this. Since we can just send a massive screenshot to Orion, essentially as many designs as we can fit on the page, it actually took less than 10 prompts total to get all my titles, which I was very impressed by. I thought this entire process would take hours and hours, but really it took just about 1 hour, especially since I could run the Tempest script completely in the background. But I knew the biggest piece of this process would be the final upload. So I set up my template in Downpour and drag and dropped my designs to kick them off. I definitely thought the site would totally bomb with that many files being sent through it, but to my surprise, after a bit of wait, Downpour started processing my massive list of files all in one motion. And by the time it was done, I had an absolutely gigantic list of listings, all uploading automatically. I clicked auto upload at the top and called it a day, letting all my listings upload as I walked away from my computer. When I came back the next morning, I let out a sigh of relief after all 262 of my new art designs were all sitting up in Etsy as draft listings, and I did a select all and hit publish. We just covered the first entire month of the challenge, but there's still a lot more that has happened with this shop up until today. In fact, I'm splitting this up into 2 parts because there's so much that happened in the next several weeks after this that the story deserves its own dedicated video. So stay tuned for part 3 of this series coming very soon. But before we wrap up, let's take a snapshot of my shop right here at the end of its first month. At this point, my shop was sitting at 536 listings, 202 visits, 3 orders, and $6.30 in revenue. But remember what I said about the 4 to 6 week build-up period, and we just doubled the number of listings in our shop. In the next part of this challenge, I think you'll see that a few of these designs turned out to be the secret weapons that were exactly what the shop needed. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for part 3. Check out the link in the description to get this automation and other tools for yourself right now, or if you just want to pop in the community and say hi. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.